Hey everybody, I'm Zach.
And I'm Jesse.
You're watching Disruptive Investing.
So it looks like Rivian is no longer exclusive with Amazon.
And as funny as our video's thumb is, we're not talking about dating. We're of course talking about what was called Rivian's EDV, or electric delivery van. Now Rivian has renamed it the RCV, the Rivian commercial van. Obviously to get the name Rivian into the name.
Okay, but why is this newsworthy? And why is this a disruptive investing video?
Good questions. All right, so let's start with your second question. Why are we focusing on a delivery van on disruptive investing? It's just a van after all, right? I mean, we've had delivery vans for years. What's the big deal? All right, well, first of all, I'll bet that unless you live in a tent at the top of a mountain, you're seeing more and more of these driving around in your neighborhood. Whether they're made by Mercedes-Benz or Rivian, if you actually look closely, you'll probably see some electric delivery vans. This isn't because companies like Amazon are trying to be nice to the environment. It's because electric is way cheaper to operate and maintain than gasoline and diesel powered vans. Side note here, but it actually does relate to what we're talking about. I was talking to this guy the other day who saw our R1T Rivian electric pickup truck, and he said, "That's electric, right?" And of course I said, "Yep, it's electric." And so he started asking some more questions, the typical ones like, how far can you go? And I was telling him about how we mainly charge it at home. And he said, "But how big is your electric bill?" And
I get this one a lot.
I know.
But how big's your electric bill?
So I explained to them, while your electric bill does go up, you're now no longer spending any money on gasoline. So that part of your budget goes to zero. And that basically it costs 75% less to fuel an electric truck versus a gasoline powered truck. And he just stared at me blankly. So I tried to put it a different way. I'm like, okay, so if you spend $400 a month on gasoline, when you buy an electric truck, you now spend about $100 on electricity and zero on gasoline. And then he went,
Wait, what?
and this goes back to the companies like Amazon, okay, who have figured this out now. To switching over their fleets of delivery vehicles to electric is going to save them a ton of money. This is the disruptive part of electric vans. Electric delivery vans are disrupting the traditional ICE delivery van market as we speak. In fact, this is why Amazon pumped so much money into Rivian before they IPO'd, because they wanted to get dibs on Rivian's delivery vans. And so after the IPO, Amazon's investment in Rivian turned into shares of Rivian, and Amazon now holds approximately 17.6% of Rivian's Class A common stock, making them Rivian's largest stockholder. And to get to the first question that you had, which is, why is this newsworthy? At Rivian's latest Q3 earnings presentation last week, Rivian announced that Amazon no longer has an exclusive on Rivian's delivery vans. Rivian will start selling them to other commercial customers. Now, Amazon had a deal that they signed with Rivian back in 2019 for 100,000 EDVs, which of course is now called RCVs. That deal goes through 2030. Rivian has already delivered about 10,000 RCVs to Amazon. What I believe this is signaling is that Amazon will get its remaining 90,000 RCVs, but Rivian sees that this van is the key to their being profitable and wants to produce a lot more than 90,000 of them in the next 6 years. We've already seen a big decline in R1T sales for Rivian. I think the Cybertruck is going to make the R1T very hard to sell going forward. So that leaves Rivian with what? The R1S, which, let's face it, it's in direct competition with the Model Y. I hear some of you right now, you're pushing back. But Rivian just announced that deliveries were up 24% from Q2 with 15,564 EVs delivered. And Rivian generated $1.3 billion in revenue in Q3, up from $1.1 billion in Q2. But I would counter with a couple things. Number one, Rivian still had negative gross profit. So we're talking minus $477 million in Q3. Number two, Rivian was almost entirely selling vehicles that had been bought at the $20,000 lower prices by early reservation holders like us. Remember that whole fiasco when CEO RJ Scaringe tried to raise the prices for those folks like us, and people went berserk, and RJ had to immediately backpedal that like 24 hours later? He was trying to raise the prices because he knew how much money they were losing on every sale. $32,000 per vehicle in Q2. Now, you might say, well, that improves, Zach, to minus $30,500 per vehicle in Q3. That doesn't seem like much of an improvement to me. But point number three, Rivian's net loss grew to $1.3 billion in Q3, which was up from their net loss of $1.1 billion in Q2.
Now, Rivian did increase its 2023 production goal up 2,000 units to 54,000 units.
Woohoo! Selling more of something that you're losing $30,000 on. That sounds splendid.
That's great.
So that leaves Rivian with the somewhere down the road R2. Remember the R2 platform? It's going to be the cheaper platform, but that's years away. Rivian has to build a factory for it first, and then they have to develop the vehicle, and they have to ramp up production, so forth and so forth. What Rivian does have, it has a corner on the market with their delivery van. This is the only thing that can keep them alive as they continue to run out of runway. They are burning through cash very quickly. We've talked about this before. Rivian currently has $9.1 billion in cash. They had $10.2 billion in cash at the end of June, so they're basically burning through $1 billion per quarter. That gives them about 9 quarters left before they're in serious trouble. That's a little over 2 years. And they won't have any real revenue from the R2 in 2 years. So R1T sales will be a joke. R1S, I think, will have become a novelty. And let me just talk about that for a second. You might be like, well, no, it's a great looking car. Okay. Early buyers, like early reservation holders, those are the most excited people. First of all, they got a big discount. And those are people that really didn't care that it didn't compete with the Model Y. They just liked it and they had the money, so they bought it. That's a smallish group of people. And I think just like the R1T, it's going to drop to very low numbers. The Model Y is essentially the same car. Like if you want an SUV, it has many of the same
And I also hear
features.
what you're saying. I also hear what you're saying. You're like, yeah, but it doesn't, they're not the same shape. Damn it. The R1S is a big box. And I love boxes.
Right.
Because I grew up with boxes. That's fine. There's going to be the Hyundai EV7 or whatever.
Yep.
That's going to be a box and it's going to cost a whole lot less. I think that a lot of people who don't want to be shelling out the kind of money for an R1S probably going to go for that if shape is the most important thing to them.
So what's left? Again, it's Rivian's delivery van. And another 20 or 30,000 units to Amazon wasn't going to be enough. So I think they said to Amazon, look, if we don't sell more of these, we're dead. And you're a major shareholder in us, so it doesn't help you if we die. So even though I'm sure Amazon didn't want to give up its exclusivity, they were kind of forced to. Now, this is good news for other major delivery companies like FedEx, UPS, and DHL. They all need to get into electric delivery vans as well. I think the fact that Amazon has already gotten 10,000 of these and has tested them out in multiple cities around the world has shown that the Rivian RCV works. I think now that they're going to be available to these other carriers, Rivian's going to start announcing order numbers, which I think is going to move their stock. Disclaimer, we're not financial advisors. Don't go out buy the stock because Zach and Jesse said it's going to go up. Do your own research. Investing involves risk. Look, I think it's easy for us here in the disruptive investing world to lose sight of disruptive technologies that we've already fully processed. I know that I tend to move on to the next technology instead of realizing that it's going to take years for disruptive technologies like electric vans to actually play out. If Rivian can thread this needle, they do have a unique position in this market at the moment. Question is, will it last? Will Tesla get into electric delivery vans? I mean, as we speak, they're getting into semi-trucks and pickup trucks, and right in the middle of that sits electric delivery vans. So it's entirely possible that Elon will post on X one day, look what we're making! And that could send Rivian stock tumbling because we all know how vertically integrated Tesla is. And if I were a delivery company, I'd love to be able to charge my vans up at superchargers.
Now, to push back a little bit, Rivian has announced that they're going to be adopting the Tesla NACS standard on their vehicles.
That's true, but it's still a couple years away from happening. Also, when Tesla does nail robo-taxis, it's not a huge leap to go to robo-delivery vans, which would be a huge cost savings over human delivery vans.
So I guess you're picturing a Tesla bot hopping out and delivering the package to your door?
Exactly.
Now, I have another question because they have their RCV, and I know that they called it a commercial vehicle, but do you think that they could start selling it to van lifer people for a big markup?
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, probably. I mean, they do have two different sizes. So, right. Yeah, I think they have the big one and they have a more small one.
Because
so.
people
love them. Yeah.
Love Sprinter vans.
Yep.
They love converting them into their own
Well, you know what
homes.
people also love to do? They like to buy them used. And I feel like once FedEx has worn it out, then Second Life people will buy
Will
it.
they wear it out, though?
Maybe not.
This is the thing. Like, they aren't going to wear out in the same way.
That's a good point.
I think that the battery range might decrease.
Right.
But it might be cheaper just to replace the battery.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I don't know.
Look, I hope we gave you something to think about. These are the kinds of things that we talk about all the time over on our Now You Know Investor Club.
If you'd like to join us there, support us on Patreon. You can go to patreon.com/nowyouknow.
On the Investor Club, we have our Investor Club exclusive bonus stories every week just for members.
We also have exclusive live streams with company founders and CEOs.
And we have our exclusive Slack community where we talk all about this cool stuff all the time. So consider supporting us, getting access to all these really cool features.
We'll see you next week on Disruptive Investing.